is episode 29. Love and Law, soon to be changed. Maybe not. We'll see. I'm still working on that. But Tessie and Charles here, but we want to talk to you guys about stereotypes. Something that we've had to come into play with and grapple with a little bit more recently than we had kind of expected with doing so much on social media and the stereotypes and the impressions that people have about us who don't know us and just things that people tell themselves about you. How do you deal with that? And what are some of those stereotypes? So, for you, what do you think are some of the stereotypes that people have told you about you, me, or us? Whether they're true or not, but some of the stereotypes that you have encountered.
Where should I begin?
Just mention three.
um, some of the stereotypes are just some of the roles of I'm a man, I should be doing this. I'm the man, I should be providing this way. Um, some of the stereotypes are, oh, well, your hair and you dress this way, you're clearly not educated, and that stereotype. And then I don't know how many I just named, but also not being mindful that I don't live up to those stereotypes.
I think that one of the stereotypes that we have had, especially recently, people think because we have a law firm, people assume that we are extremely wealthy. Okay, that if I had the money that everybody thought I had, we'd be great. We'd be somewhere else. I don't know. And I think another stereotype that we have encountered recently is what people perceive our roles to be in our business and how we run our business together, what those stereotypical roles should look like, or what they think stereotypical leadership should look like. In my efforts to overcome some of those stereotypes, I talk to our clients, I talk to our children, I talk to people, friends, colleagues, a lot of people about who I truly am, which is very different from what people perceive me to be. And I share with people regularly that I am a high school dropout. I share with them that I was a teen mom twice, had my second child at 18 years old. And so I share my story on social media with clients, with people, friends, neighbors, whomever, in an effort to help overcome that stereotype that start would dictate where I am now. And so I do a lot of talking in person on social media and publicly about my journey in an effort to overcome some of those stereotypes about who I am now based on where I started. What do you do, if anything, to overcome stereotypes that people believe about you?
I was thinking about that as you were talking. Um, for the most part, I don't think I do a lot. I feel like some of those stereotypes don't warrant a conversation. They're outside of the people that are important to me. You can have what your thoughts are about me, whether it's you think I'm uneducated or you feel like the way that my household is ran needs to look more like the traditional model. For the most part, they're not anything that I feel like I need to address. So if you get to know me, then hopefully in that conversation, the stereotype of being uneducated and that persona that you had will change. But as far as, the traditional man, woman, wife, husband, household, I mean, that's not anything that I care to discuss with anybody. If my children, if they ask, I'll be more than happy to give my insight, but the way that you run your household is what's going to work for you. It's about the compromise, and things aren't the traditional way. Those stereotypes have changed. Things are a little bit different. So, I have the conversation when I feel like it's warranted. In most scenarios, there's no need.
Now that I agree. If you have held true to that forever, when I tell you, a lot of people will say, kind of cliche, like I don't care what other people think. I think you live that a lot. Like you really don't care, regardless of who the person is. Like you really about most things don't care anybody else's opinion. For me, it's not that I care about someone's opinion, and it's not that they asked or it's something I feel needs explanation. When I'm having a conversation with someone and I believe that my past or my journey will help them with whatever their issue is, then I offer it. And then the conversation comes up about what they thought. I'm not answering a question that someone asked me. One of our colleagues, one of the younger ladies that worked for us, she was telling me about a difficult time in her life, and so I shared with her that, well, when I dropped out of school, and it stopped the conversation when I dropped out of high school. What? And she went on to tell me what she stereotypically thought of me as an attorney and owning a law firm. That's how that conversation came to be. Not that she asked or needed a explanation, but I was trying to use my journey to help give her inspiration in her own journey. And so I assumed that she had the stereotypical belief that a lot of people do, and in that situation I was right, but I wanted to intentionally break down that stereotype to lend an inspiring word to let her know that she can overcome the issue that we were talking about. And but it's when I'm having those conversations is when I learn how most people have stereotypes about me. And I think people have stereotypes about a lot of people, including me. You just assume this and assume that and assume that. But when some of the bigger obstacles, I will make an effort to have a conversation to share who I am with certain people, large groups or small, just to help break down some of those stereotypes, not because I feel like they are owed it, but if it helps someone else along the way. Those specific stereotypes about overcoming obstacles are the stereotypes that I care to have conversations with our children, clients, employees, or whomever.
It depends on the circumstances. I mean, if I think that it's going to help someone, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I'm more than open to share whatever it is that may be helpful. But when you say, I guess the stereotype, last place of employment, I kind of had a higher up say that, wow, you sound educated, and why do you work here? And that stereotype of what you initially saw, and then after you talked to me, your tune changed, and unfortunately, it's disheartening at times because it's, at least in my experiences, when I have gotten more of the stereotypes, and maybe that's the way with most of them, they're from a negative place. So instead of letting myself go down that path, it's not worth my conversation.
Well, I agree. I think most of the stereotypes that people have about us or me or whatever is more of a negative stereotype that I think just being transparent about whatever we do decide to talk about when you do feel like you need to have a conversation about it. It can be a heavy lift of emotional labor, in my opinion, from my end, to try to overcome some of the stereotypes and to be vulnerable and share who you are with people in an effort to help them and to overcome stereotypes can take a toll on me. I can only speak for me in a vulnerable way. There were things that I used to like. I used to be really, really embarrassed about sharing with people that I was a high school dropout. I used to be very embarrassed by being a high school dropout, and I used to be very embarrassed about being a teen mom and all of the food stamps and the WIC and the free government cheese. And now, for me, it's just a part of my story. It's a part of my testimony. It's a part of my journey, and it breaks down all the stereotypes of where people thought and said I would be and should be, and how I would end up or live. But it is nobody's decision but mine to do better and to overcome those stereotypes of what my life would be because I had a child at 16. What my life would be because I dropped out of high school. And so some of those stereotypes for me actually became fuel. It was a you're gonna be this and you're not gonna be this. Okay, okay, and it really did turn stereotypes about you keep telling me what I can and cannot do. And I'm telling you, this is what I'm going to do. And you will look me in my face and tell me, well, you're not going to do that. Well, you know, you did this. And so it was like, some of it was just the drive that I wanted to do it. And there was a good dose of you telling me that I'm not going to do it, or I can't do it, or I'm not worthy or smart enough. That's going to push me harder to overcome the stereotypes of what you're telling me I am.
One of the stereotypes for me has been kind of involvement with the police. And it's not something that I'm trying to say all police officers are bad people, but I have been stereotyped when being pulled over more often than not. And you kind of just roll with it. And that's one of those things where you have to make sure you conduct yourself a certain way so that stereotype that they have is hopefully changed some, and every African American male that's driving whatever it is, oh, I got me one, let me pull him over. And that stereotype for me is just a little disheartening, because I don't think all police are that way, and I don't feel that way, but it is what it is.
Well, I just think that, even in Atlanta, where we are, there's still an air of racism, not just here, but in the world, unfortunately, in most places. And even as an attorney, when I have went into court, people stereotypically believe that I am the client and not the attorney. Suited and booted, briefcase in hand, they'll ask me what's my case number, or if I'm walking into the courtroom and I'm crossing the threshold where attorneys are on this side and all the clients and defendants are on the other side, or just clients, even if it's in the family law side, they'll stop me. Only attorneys are allowed beyond this point. There was a time where my younger self caught all the attitude, and it felt so disrespectful, and I matched energies, and I had something smart to say, and excuse me. And now, if that happens, I really try to be a lot more graceful, and I smile, and I can see, instead of me having an attitude and kind of letting you know I am an attorney and blah, 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 blah. If I look at you and I will say it with the most sincere kindness that I can muster up and tell you, I know, I understand, and I keep walking right by them, the look on their face is almost one of embarrassment. When I am rude back to them because they are talking to me in a very rude, negative tone, we can battle, and I'm going to win because I am an attorney, and I keep walking. But I feel like the moment is lost. If I let you know in that moment that you just made a judgment call, a stereotypical judgment call, that because I am black, I am a defendant or I'm not an attorney, in that moment you can almost feel the sincere, subtle shame of that stereotype that a lot of them have made. That's been my impression and my experience. And so if I'm facing a stereotype that's based on race, I just feel like, regardless of whether it's a stereotype based on based on race or anything, I just am in a place in my life where I am trying to practice gratitude for where I am, what I have, what I've been through, all of that. And if you have a stereotype about me that is a negative one, I'm no longer interested in matching anybody's energy if it's not something that serves me. So when we're talking about stereotypes and you can tell me that I'm here, I'm more in a place of giving back. And I want to share my journey to uplift and inspire somebody. But the stereotypes, I think you just have to be intentional about how you want to handle them. Okay, so Daryl just brought up a good stereotype he wanted us to talk about the millions and millions of people that don't trust lawyers, which of course is my profession. People think that lawyers and liars
Go together.
synonyms. They go together. And I think that a lot of people distrust and don't like lawyers.
And mechanics and police officers.
But they dislike and don't trust lawyers until they need one. And I think that I can understand how some people have that impression of lawyers, because lawyers are trained and skilled at showing a certain audience, a jury or a judge, their facts of a case. And you're taught to have persuasive arguments. And if you're on the other side of that persuasive argument, it's easy to say it's a lie. If I am defending someone, I'm going to paint the facts in a way that's best suited for my client. And I'm not going to tell a lie. I'm not going to tell a lie. But I can not say you stole something. I can say that in a different way I'm not going to say you stole it. But I can say that you misunderstood who it belonged to. And that's a fine line. That can be a very fine line. If it's in a store, it's a little harder. But if I take it, for instance, here's an example of what I'm saying. If my client is charged with stealing a car, or being in possession of a stolen car, what I'm going to do is make sure that the prosecutor proves their point, that you should have known that it was a stolen car. I'm looking for an angle that I'm going to emphasize, and I'm never going to tell a lie. But my client didn't know that the car was stolen. How could he have known that the car was stolen? Why would he have known that the car was stolen? If I take Charles's car and I let you borrow it, Daryl, you don't know that I stole it from him. I'm letting you borrow his car, his Firebird, his prized possession. He comes home and the car is missing. He reports it stolen. You're off taking your wife on a date weekend. I'm like, oh, it's her anniversary, it's her birthday. You go do your thing. You get pulled over for speeding because it's that type of car. You get charged with stealing a car. You did not steal the car. It's a matter of perception. So you giggled when I said he didn't know the car was stolen. You didn't know that I didn't have his permission for you to drive his car, but you still got arrested for stealing the car. It's that type of fancy dancing around what is true that will make people believe that lawyers are liars. On the divorce side of things, if I'm defending Charles in a divorce and I represent you, not defending you, but I represent you in a divorce, the woman's going to think that I'm a liar because I'm showing the highlights of his side of it. You guys him and the wife would have a difference of opinion about what should be divided, who did what, who did not do what. And because I am arguing to represent something that's adverse to you, you will say that I'm lying. But if I was representing you, the other side says that I'm lying. And it's a matter of perspective. And so it's a stereotypical thing. People say all the time that lawyers are liars when we are in fact skilled to dissect words that are being said. Even if it's not family law or criminal law, but you have a law. For instance, one of the most perfect examples, when you have the Constitution being written and you have an attorney challenging the Constitution, am I not a man? The Constitution says that all men get these rights, but am I not a man? That is the most clearest depiction of taking those words and making this country honor those words. Am I not a man? Frederick Douglass, am I not a man? The Constitution says all men get to do these things. It is the first challenge of those words. And it's the challenge of those words. He's not a liar, but you're taking those words and challenging them the same way that I'm challenging. Did Daryl steal the car? Of course he didn't. Do you have to give her this money in alimony or child support? It depends. How much did you make? You made $300,000 or did you make the $600,000? You made $600,000, but these are expenses that you had to pay for your business. So yes, he made $600,000. Yes, my firm made this many dollars, but Tessie didn't make those dollars. The other side that did not know that what the firm made is not my income, and therefore that's not what's going to calculate your alimony or child support. It is the deciphering of words for people that do not know that that's my job, that's my charge, that's my challenge as an attorney. Will say that I'm lying, and I'm not. I'm not saying that you wouldn't find some attorneys that's going to flat out lie. I'm not going to lie for anybody. I've worked too hard for my law degree, But if I challenge what you're saying and I find the angle that I can highlight, you will call it a lie. So the person that I'm doing it to is going to say you're lying. Oh no, I'm just highlighting that Daryl didn't know that that car was stolen. That you did not intend for black men to be for blacks, slaves to be counted, but they are, of course they are men. They're black men, but you were talking about white men. That have nothing to do with me about what you were intending. What it says is men get this. All men get this. All men have these rights. Am I not a man? He didn't lie. He is a man. Of course he's a man. Your intentions were for white men, but your words said men. And so the play on words, the intended skill of playing on words is why people have that stereotype that lawyers are liars. I wouldn't say that that's the case. Just so that we're clear, I am aware that Frederick Douglass is not an attorney. He was a legal scholar. I'm not even sure that he could become an attorney during that time. Not sure. But it was an example of how words can be used, legal words can be used and parsed apart to hone in on a point. So whether it's an attorney or not, but stereotypically people believe that when you do what he did and use words for your benefit, that they will paint you as a liar. And it was just my point that he was not a liar, even though he wasn't a lawyer. But again, the connection between finagling words to your benefit comes across to some people as liars.
So I guess there's another stereotype that we'll touch on a little bit in this, being business owners, that we only care about money, and that we want to fire everybody. For the most part, I don't fire anybody. I will, but it just hasn't been. We have a situation where I've had to do that or needed to do that. And when it comes to only being concerned about money, no, we're concerned about the people that we try to help, and the ones sometimes that don't hire us. I will still try to do my best in giving you some information or pointing you in a direction that can be useful, because at one point in time, some of these people that call in, I was in their position. So it's not just about the money. I mean, I feel better overall knowing that I helped someone, regardless if they paid me money or not, but still understanding that I can't do it for free. That's not always going to be an option. But if I can give you some free advice or point you in a direction that is going to be helpful to you, I get more enjoyment out of that, knowing that I was able to help. I don't know, Tessa, you might have something else additional to add to that.
Well, I think a lot of people think as business owners, I agree that a lot of people stereotypically believe that we only care about the money. And I think that that's true on both sides. Our employees, when I'm holding them accountable for their job and what they have to do, and then also the clients as well. And then the other point you brought up was the hiring and firing. So addressing the money from the employer side of it, it's a business. I'm not trying to be cold, and I've made a lot of exceptions back and forth. I don't know that you've ever fired anybody in the firm. I have fired several people. My position is this: when it comes to hiring and firing people, it's definitely not about the money, because I've kept a lot of employees on sometimes longer than I should have, because I do care about them as a person. But I am not in the business of hiring friends. I'm hiring a team to help us reach a goal. And in hiring that team, I'm very clear about what the expectation is for you in this position. And I expect you to do your end, hold up your end of the bargain, which is to do your job, deliver your KPIs and what you're supposed to do. And in turn, I will pay you this salary on these specified dates. If you can show up and do 75% of your job, I feel like I should be able to give you 75% of your salary. But if I suggest that, I'm being a mean boss and I only care about the money. I need you to show up and do your job, because we have clients whose lives depend on it. People are trusting us with their lives, their divorces, their children, their assets. We also do criminal law. I've done criminal law longer than I've done family law. And so we're talking about people's freedom. People are literally going to go to jail if I don't do my job at a high level. So again, yes, you have to do your job and earn the salary. And that is what we negotiated before you came to work here. And as y'all can tell, I'm a very clear, direct person. So there were no hidden expectations of what you're supposed to do on your end. So no, I don't only care about the money when it comes to my team. On the other side, When it comes to clients, of course you have to pay your bill. The same thing that you're saying. I didn't marry her. I didn't marry him. I didn't do whatever you're accused of doing it. I'm here to help you. We are here to help you as your legal support. But only one of us is paying for your divorce. And it is not going to be me. I didn't marry them to make the choices that they made. And I have to pay my staff. And it's not, fair for them. They have to feed their families like it's a job. You hire us to do a job. Same thing I tell my employees. You hire us to do a job, and we're going to do this. We're going to provide a service, and in turn, you're going to pay us for that service. Those are clear contractual terms. It's not about the money, but if you don't pay your bill, I can't pay their salary. They just go hand in hand. As a business owner, I have to look at the bottom line, and we are lenient a lot to employees and to clients when we can be. But just because you have to pay your bill or you have to do your job doesn't mean that we only care about the money. So it just is what it is. It's a lot of times it's business decisions and they're not emotional decisions. And that's a large part of being a mature entrepreneur. When it comes to the hiring and firing, again, I'm not in the position of hiring friends. I'm not. We can become friendly, but if I need to fire you, I assure you, I do not want to fire anybody. It takes a lot of energy, time, and resources to find and train people. But if you're not doing your job, let's have a conversation. Let's try to rope you back in and retrain and get you to where you need to be, because we are losing time to have to let you go find someone else and start all over again. But if we, after several attempts, are not meeting each other and we're not aligned on what needs to be done, how and when, then it's not fair to you or to the firm to keep you in that spot. So I'm going to let you go so you can find what you're better suited for and we can get what we need. And so hiring, firing comes as a part of holding these seats as owners of a business. And I think stereotypically that comes across as we only care about the money. Because I'm not willing to do your divorce or handle your case for free, or if it costs $10 to do your divorce and you've paid $3, you only care about the money. You just gonna leave me out here hanging? Well, it's not my intentions to leave you hanging, but I'm very clear about what is expected before you start down this road. And so the best I can do to calm those stereotypes or negate those stereotypes is to be very clear when it comes to hiring so we don't have to fire. When it comes to representing you so that we don't have to withdraw and leave your case. And so to dispel those stereotypes that we only care about money as business owners, I try to practice very, very clear communication that is rooted in explanations, why I do what I do, how we're going to do it, when we're going to do it, so that you're very well informed before you hire our firm, before you come to work for our firm, whatever it is. I just try to have open communication so we're very clear. And when there's a hiccup, even if you can't pay your invoice, there are clients that we have that are the whole entire case, they're behind on their fees. But it's an open communication, and I'm paying it later, I'm paying a piece of a payment. And as long as there's open communication and we can get aligned on what we're doing, it's not a yes or no. It's not a yes or no. Let's try to be aligned. Let's try to see if we can get to the same page. So the stereotype that we only care about the money, if that was true, this would be so much smoother. If it only came down to the numbers, the dollar signs, the practice of running a business would be a lot smoother if we did not take into place the human aspect of our clients and our team. So that is definitely a stereotype that I know that we together work very hard to dispel. But at the end of the day, there has to be a level of accountability from our clients and from our team for their part in if you are fired or if we don't work together as client and attorney. And, some people are just hell-bent on their stereotypes, and God help them, that's what they want to believe, is what they're going to do. And so it is what it is.
It's all right. It's two sides to every story. So when you hear some of those stereotypes, you're getting it from probably that one side. So there's a whole nother perspective that's being left out when they say, oh, they only care about the money. And they give you this example of, well, they did this and that, and I was fired after this amount of time. Well, how long did they work with you? Well, it was 3 months. They gave me the first warning, and then they came back later and said I'm fired. Well, you had a whole 3 months to fix it. Or it was, hey, they were only concerned about the money and all this. Well, you needed all these additional things and you couldn't afford them, and then still trying to work with you. We cut you a break on this and tried to work with you because you didn't have the money, and this was the best possible outcome with, oh, I needed to hire someone outside of our firm, but you didn't have the funds
But I
for
think
that.
it's true even outside of our firm. I'm talking just wildly as a business owner, period. Not even about our law firm. Even if we owned a Chick-fil-A and we only care about the money, but you're showing up to late 30 minutes late every time. And this is what I'm saying. This is not just true of our business. I'm saying as business owners, you have to make decisions based on the work that needs to be done, the totality of who the client is. If you go to Chick-fil-A and the number one cost is $10, if you don't have $10, you got $8.50. They're probably not going to give you what you're trying to order because you
Understood.
don't have the funds. There's a cost analysis of that business that has to be made. And so whether it's our business or someone else's business, the stereotype that business owners only care about the money. My goal was to give you some of the thought behind the decisions that have to be made as business owners as it relates to the money, whether you're the consumer or you are the employee, so that you understand that it's not just about the money, that there's a lot that has to go into making decisions that are based on money. That is true. So, again, it's stereotypes. I think everybody lives with stereotypes, whether it's in your job as a parent, based on your race, your age. There's going to be stereotypes. If you try your best to do your best, the rest of it is just going to be what it is. And hopefully, by moving forward in a positive way, people will start to break down some of those stereotypes. Hopefully, we will help people break down the stereotypes that I can have a shaved blonde head and you can have locks and we're still intelligent business owners, and that we are respectful parents, and that you're not looking to break the law, and that you haven't abandoned your children as a black man because you guys never stick around and raise your children. That, as a teen mom, that I'm going to be on welfare and my whole life and I'm never going to do anything better than that. Doing my best individually, everybody doing their best individually to be their best selves will slowly, hopefully, start to tear down stereotypes, whether you intend them to be or not. I didn't seek out to overcome a stereotype of what a teen mom looks like. I sought out to do the best for myself and accomplish goals that I set for myself. And in doing so, it helped to break down some of those stereotypes. So, regardless of what people think about you, you live well, do well, and let the stereotypes melt away by what you are doing and how you are living, and not by your argument about the stereotypes. That would be my advice to everyone listening. Remember, I think this will probably be our last episode before we have to make a decision on whether we're going to end up keeping this name or changing the name. In the next episode, you guys will get to meet some of our children and learn about what that journey has been as we have been together. Ooh, November will be our 19th anniversary. And so we've been together almost 20 years, almost 20 years. So,
That's a stereotype.
what's the stereotype?
I knew that. That we don't know the dates. That the husbands be
Well,
forgetting it.
anyway, Charles has been saying the wrong date so long I had to think about it. If you
No,
ask
I
Charles
was
how long we've been
projecting it.
together,
I will say 37 years because I'm looking forward and I'm putting that positivity into the universe. And if you start to say something, then it can believe to be true. That's not a stereotype. That is a projecting positivity. So yes, once we get to 37, I'll come up with a new number. But 19 years, I knew that.
well, we're going to be introducing some of the kids. You can meet them. We'll talk about the journey of our blending families, building a firm, and all the ups and downs, ebbs and flows, because there's been a lot of them. So, Like, follow, subscribe, stay tuned. Let us know if you guys have any ideas for podcast names, because if we do have to change this name from Love and Law, what may be some good names that speak to family, entrepreneurship, the law, all those things. So be good at it. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Adios.